Okay, so shit. But finally, I have been able to get this in, and the first episode of Squad Showdown is about to commence, people. It's about to commence. So, what's the first thing I'm going to say here? Obviously, thanks to you guys so much for the. I honestly just can't. Like, I just can't believe how this is. To be honest, I'm not too surprised that people have been asking me about this, so I'm finally doing it. So I've actually been asked way more times than I expected. 23 times out of all the other things I have been asking y'all to vote on for my Discord server. By the way, I do have a Discord server for Blood and Steel, in case you guys are wondering. If you want to join my uh, everlasting Discord server where we have memes and you could send memes of whatever kind. You could even make Blood and Steel memes. I could care less what type of meme you send in there, but I have a Discord server I own, and I'm trying to get it to build up. So if you all want to know where I'm getting some of these ideas, I talk to those people in there, and I get the ideas to discuss from there. So that's where I'm getting some of my ideas. In case you guys want to ever join that Discord server and help out with the ideas, I'm not even going to ask you to join, but feel free to. That being said, let's get into Squad Showdown. Who has the better squad? And better yet, who's the better when it comes to everything? Well, the first thing you want to know is how many Marines, who wins in a normal fight? The United Planets Marine or squad of Marines? Well, technically it's a platoon, but don't fucking worry about it. Platoon of Marine, a United Planets Marines versus a platoon of UNSC Marines. Who's going to come out on top? And this is going to be hard. The first thing is obviously numbers. So a single platoon, I haven't really found much on it, but if we use the normal average platoon for the US Marine for UNSC, which is maybe stupid, but at the same time, that's the best I've got. UNSC Marine platoon. It says the average platoon is approximately 6 soldiers. It is 6. The average U.S. Marine platoon is 7. So this means that a single UNSC Marine platoon has 1 soldier more than a United Planets platoon. It has 5. It has, and that I'll talk with that because the next one is equipment. Who has the better on average equipment? So the United Nations Space Command Marines have the. Everyone knows the fucking assault rifle from Halo. Let's not talk about that. But it's not just that, but it's also the M6 Magnum that needs to be talked about. We need to talk about that. And I want to know something. If you have a Marine Magnum and all that, it says the gun fires 12.7. I don't know how the fuck a normal Marine is going to survive firing with that. Let's be honest. You may have higher calibers. The problem is those higher calibers, what most people don't know about higher calibers like that is that they will hit you harder, sure. They're going to hit you harder. Let's just keep that at truth. The problem is penetration. This is where everything goes wrong. And a 12.7 by 40 millimeter round is not going to do you any good when it comes to fighting an enemy with Kevlar and polymer armor. That's not going to save you. When polymer is about as strong as titanium, that helps nothing. That legitimately helps nothing. So its effective range is 50 meters. That's not very far. For an average pistol, that's super close comparison to some. And considering it has a long barrel too, the M6C Magnum, this should be the average 12. How the fuck does this have a 12.7 by 40? So yeah, basically it's a 12.7. I don't know why the fuck you would have a 50 cal round chambered in a pistol, but you know what? I'm not really going to question that. The average pistol of the United Planets is called the HT, and it is part of HT Industries. Basically, it's part of the Hinton Industries, which is created on Gorma. Gorma and all that had produced a pistol with a 40, so it's a 40 round. It is a 10.2 by 20, I think either 20 or 25 millimeter. It is a pretty big round. So it isn't a tiny round per se, but it also isn't anywhere near as big as the pistol round from Halo. How effective is that going to be against armor? I mean, at close range, it would make sense why that pistol would be used. So in a squad level, the UNSC Marine does indeed take this W, but it's the assault rifle that's going to give them the L in this case. And this is where everything goes wrong. The UNSC Marine carries an M603 or 5 or 8. There's just so many fucking assault rifles. I can't tell you which one. But if we take the best one with the most ammo and everything, it uses the 7.62 by 51 and has 60 rounds. Sometimes it's 36 and sometimes it's 32. It's a whole bunch. So I'm just going to use it as 36. It's got heavier rounds, so it will do a lot of pushing you back and it will knock you off your feet, but it won't necessarily go through your armor. Those rounds will go to the United Planets, where they can penetrate the armor and explode everything in the inside. And that would go because they have a 6.8 by 47 millimeter, and with 45 rounds in each magazine, the United Planets Marine's going to take a fat dub without any problems. Here's another problem, though. It's comparison and damage. And this is where I'm saying, in a close quarters sense, the UNSC Marine will do more damage. But the longer the engagement and the farther that the United Planets Marines are away from them, the worse off they'll be, because they can't hurt them anywhere near as much as they can hurt the UNSC Marines. Cost efficiency. So the UNSC Marines are very efficient, but yet comparison to a nation that's been living for thousands of years and has been doing this, that's mostly a pretty fair assessment to say the United Planets will have a higher grade of efficiency. Even if they aren't nearly as good in terms of efficiency, it's just a matter of how long they've lived that really changes the whole situation. Discipline. Obviously, I mean, UNSC Marines, don't get me wrong, they're fucking tough as shit. These guys go in and fight aliens. I don't know many soldiers that are just going and fight aliens. To be honest, that's respectful in itself, and that's just some hard ass shit I can't possibly think that we could have to deal with in our lives. But the fact that they're able to do all that, I'm just surprised. But I don't know who wins discipline. I'm just going to say that's indecisive because, sure, they've battled aliens, but so many of the United Planet soldiers have to fight a constant barrage of enemies. They're not ever getting a break. So they cannot break themselves. So it's really hard to say who wins this, because there's one side that always fights and there's one side that just fought a massive human level extinction enemy. Obviously, you can't tell who's better just because they fought an alien, a group of aliens, or a constant barrage of warfare. Who knows? Morale, obviously, after the Human Covenant War, I don't know. To be honest with you, this is kind of hard to do for me because, number one, the UNSC had some high morale after the war, because, I mean, they just survived after an alien species literally wanted to kill every single human known to man, and just eradicate the species as a whole. But yet, they survived, and they did so much better. So, in my factor, that might just go to the UNSC. I mean, they'd be feeling really damn good after defeating But at the same time, fighting another opponent, I don't know. That's why I'm saying this is a tough one. I might just give the UNSC the benefit of the doubt here. And yeah, as stupid as it sounds, they might legitimately have better discipline in a short term sense. But in a morale sense, they might take it, they might just take it. And that is where the average United Planets Marine is going to be up a creek. That will be until the X Factor. The X Factor is a lot of different things. Is how do we know one of the Marines may not just run away because they're too scared to fight? Obviously, that's probably not going to happen. Let's face that honestly. That's probably not going to happen. And the same thing could go for the United Planets. That's probably not going to happen because it's an all volunteer force. So even though the UNSC is not, sometimes it's not an all volunteer force. Sometimes that's just how it is sometimes. So X factor, it's environment and weather. Most weather that the UNSC has to deal with, they have ways to counteract it, but in a split second, that's not going to give them a victory here. That's really going to do them in this battle. And I think the United Planets will take this in a majority. Most of the time, they will take a very good majority in the X Factor because you don't know if the UNSC Marine Squadron is going to have a bunch of rebels. You don't know that. I don't know that. How do any of us know that rebels won't be participating in the fight? It's obvious. Maintenance. Who has higher maintenance? Well, it's pretty obvious who's going to have higher maintenance, and it's the dudes that have higher technological capabilities, and that would most likely be the United Planets. I mean, they have shielding, they already have weapons to counteract shielding, and even have weapons to counteract the shielding. The UNSC barely got shielding after the Human Covenant War. That alone kind of proves that not every single UNSC Marine is going to do very well in a technological standpoint. The economy. Yeah, the UNSC economy after the war was really strong. It was pretty strong because they had built all these weapons and they had virtually defeated one of the most powerful enemies known to mankind. But in my opinion, their economy after the war might just do a lot for them. But in terms of resources, this may be a failure that they can't, and I mean this, they can't allow the United Planets to take this edge. And it's resources. Resources is another thing. It will matter how many resources you can keep funneling into your industries, because the moment that those are done, it doesn't matter how strong your industries are. You're done. There's really nothing you can do after that point. So what happens now? The United Planets Marines obviously are going to take this fat dub, and with the economy, it's kind of hard to say who would win in this fight, because on a small scale level, on a squad to squad basis, I would say that it might be very close. This is going to be a close call. Technological advancement and research. I mean, the UNSC Marines didn't really change all that much. Even during 40 years of conflict, they never changed much. Sure, some of the designs changed, but that didn't really help all that much. So, honestly, there's really not much I could say other than that the designs and the change didn't really do anything, to be honest. Territory. Here's one where, in my opinion, this one doesn't count, because this is a squad battle. This is not a national attack or any of that. This is just a squad battle. So I'm going to put territory with the X factor here, and that would be that it matters where the battle takes place, because if the UNSC Marines are fighting on a planet they know all too well, they might be able to just kick the United Planets Marines out. But if the United Planets Marines are fighting in, let's say, a snowy tundra, and the UNSC Marines have to get out and put themselves into new armor before the United Planets Marines get to them, that might just make them lose. So it really does matter where this battle is fought. But even then, even if that is all the case, even if you know where the enemy is at, a better force will always prevail in the long term. And that's kind of how it's seen. It's like it doesn't matter how good your force is. If you can't overwhelm your enemy with sheer force, you have to overwhelm them with sheer speed and industrial capacity. Honestly, that really doesn't matter too much here, so that's not going to matter too much. So I'm going to remove that. So here's what I'm going to say is going to happen. So now we're going to do something that I haven't really done before. And this is now we're getting into the battle. We're not going to tell you, I'm not going to say much where, but we're just going to say that both sides are in an area where they are not very good at fighting in. Well, I wouldn't say not that, but just a place that neither side has a specialty in, where they could still fight there, but it's not a specialty. And this area is going to be part of not the Rocky Mountains, but mountains that are rocky. Yeah, it's not the best, but we're going to say that this battle takes somewhere on Reach. Just pointing that out. So this battle takes somewhere in Reach. United Opponents Marines versus UNSC Marines. Who's going to win first? Well, the part one is, I know I'm going to spell this wrong, but I'm just going to put, I was going to say reconnaissance, but it's like, I can't fucking spell that. So I'm just going to put spying. Who has better spying technology? And obviously that's going to go to the United Opponents. So they're going to figure out that there are UNSC Marines located upon a hill, mountain, very close by, maybe a couple 100 meters away, maybe even a couple 1,000 meters away. And they have to fight these UNSC Marines. See, here's where the United Planet scores another W, and it's because they're fighting in a non-conventional way. See, most of the United Planet's forces have been fighting terrorist groups and rebel organizations on the other side of the galaxy, out in the Outer Rim. The UNSC were fighting close quarter battles with insurrectionists and aliens. This will not do them any good. So in the first part, the United Planets is going to really give them hell. And this is where the UNSC Marines are in some serious trouble. Part two is the engagement. As soon as both sides know of each other's existence and where they might be, they're going to start attacking each other. They're going to start firing what they can. And this is where the UNSC Marines really lag behind. As good as their weapons are in close quarters, at a distance of hundreds of meters, that's not going to do you any good. A pistol will not do you any good, and the rifle will not do you any good. Because a bullet with a thinner casing and a longer projectile, that's going to go farther, and it's going to hit at a faster rate. And because it's still pretty thick of a round and has still some pretty nice composites, it's composite and it has a long rifled barrel, it's going to go very far and very fast. So that rifle is going to do some serious damage. The average United Planets rifle is going to do some really big amounts of damage. I do believe the UNSC Marines at this point are not going to be in a very good position. And then you got the LMGs of the United Planets, and that just completely takes everything out of question. And you've got anti-material rifle, and you have an HMG, and then boom, it's done. But an average squad's only going to have an LMG and 4 rifles. So it's not going to be overzealous. And we're not even going to say that they have a sniper, because there's sniper battalions, obviously, but there's not a lot of, technically snipers are considered special forces. So that's why I'm saying it's only Marines. But in this part of the engagement, here's what I see that could potentially happen. If a UNSC Marine has a sniper and they can do some serious damage, but I don't think it's going to be too good. Because the moment they see that stream of smoke, they're going to target that sniper the moment they see it. That's a bad move. The UNSC Marines don't want the United Planets Marines to know they're there. They want them to shoot away. They don't want them to know where their exact locations are. The moment that happens, it's game over for the UNSC. They need to make sure they don't let the United Planets know of where they're at. They don't want them to know. And that's the problem. They don't want them to know. They don't need to know. Part 3 is going to be if anything happens, recuperation, which is basically rearming and regrouping. UNSC Marines would have to regroup. The United Planets easily has an advantage in suppressing fire. They have multiple LMGs with a 500 round mag of 8mm. Even if the UNSC Marines somehow have a weapon that has more ammo, which I highly doubt that's going to happen, what happens then is even if it's a matter of who can put down more rounds faster and who can reload and re-equip themselves faster. And that's going to be the United Planets Marines. They had to do that because of the war in the Outer Rim. So even with all the advantages on here, where they should have won in a normal way in an actual confrontation, it's a little different. But let's say it's close quarters. Part 1, obviously, spying. First thing is, even if they're in close quarters, spy equipment still says the United Planets is going to find them first. But the question is, where do we fight? Well, New Alexandria. Yeah, we're fighting there with a large amount of the city, and we're just going to say it is raining to give both sides some parts of advantages over one another to make it more fair. With this in mind, the United Planets is going to immediately find them, and they're going to immediately try to put them down. And because they're within a certain range, the United Planets is really going to have a field day. Because here's something I didn't tell you. The average United Planets rifle has a 40mm grenade launcher. I forgot to say that. And most of the range means it can hit as far as 250 meters. The pistol can only do a fifth of that. Do you see why I said the Marines for the United Nations Space Command are not going to stand much of a chance? This is why. Even in a close quarters combat, it's not going to do them any good. A shotgun might do you good. That might actually do some damage, but in the end, both times in a long engagement, the UNSC Marines will be tired out, they'll be pinned down, or many of them will just be dead or straight up wounded, and they can't fight no more. Here's what I see for around both parts. For Section 1, I see out of the 6 UNSC Marines that I had seen in a platoon, I had seen that 4 to 5 would be wounded or killed within the first 30 minutes of the battle. Yeah, I didn't really see them doing too well in the first part. I mean, duh. You're fighting in an environment in which your enemy knows how to fight in. That's really bad for you. But in Section 2, things get a little more heated. UNSC Marines still lose 3 to 4, but this time it's debated, but using the worst case scenario, one United Planets Marine is killed and another is wounded. It's way different, but when you have still 2 to 1 in terms of casualties, that's not good. That is not good. And when they have less men than you, only by like 1, and they still can outdo you in casualties, that's really bad. Really, really bad. But yeah, as I see both times, the United Planets Marine comes out on top and just wrecks their shit both times. And that's what I'm seeing. And it's just crazy. It's way more even when it's way more even. Even if I remove the rain, it didn't change the outcome. It got closer to being a tie, but it still didn't change the fact the United Planets Marines, on average, were going to do far better. I just don't see the UNSC Marines doing any better than the United Planets ones. And when you have experienced men and women in the United Planets Marine Corps, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Even if the UNSC is really good somehow and they're somehow technologically more advanced, in this situation, the United Planets knows how to fight a long conflict. So even in the worst case scenario for them, they had a chance at winning. Thanks to the immense amount of training, equipment, and money going to them, I think they'd win even in the worst case scenario. So, got to give it to them. Got to give it credit to the UNSC Marines, though. I mean, they would be fighting like hell. And to be honest, they deserve some credit here because the fact that you're taking on a powerful military and hoping that you could still at least have a fighting chance is amazing. And honestly, that's pretty crazy in itself. But even if I added extra weapons, like if I gave them all heavier weapons and let them fight, I feel like that would be way too overpowered for one side because that would just doom the UNSC. But yeah, my final verdict is that the United Planets Marine, on average, is going to win more times than a UNSC Marine in a 1v1 engagement. And there's a lot of reasons why, even when this tells you otherwise, in a 1v1 in a squad to squad engagement, even with the Commonwealth, in a 1v1 engagement between squads, it's still going to end the same way. And it's majorly due because, yeah, it matters a lot whether your economy can support ground assaults and all that. The difference with that is it'll matter a lot if you can get your soldiers to the front lines and get them to spot the enemy before they spot you. And that's generally how most firefights are won. Whoever spots first is generally the victor. It's generally. But as I'm done with this, wait, are you kidding me? I did all this for nothing. Oh, great. Well,